You're about to watch a great interview on TYT Interviews. If you want to watch them live, members are the only ones who get to do that. tytnetwork.com/join. Become a member, enjoy the interviews as they happen.
Coming out of the 2016 election, it was fairly clear during the primary and after that the DNC needed massive reforms in terms of how it was structured, how it was financed, and especially how it actually ran elections. And it was clear that we needed that before the next election. So in the wake of that primary, a Unity and Reform Commission was set up with members of both the sort of Hillary Clinton wing and the Bernie Sanders wings of the party to try to figure out what is going to happen going forward. Over the past year, they put together a slate of proposals that we're gonna talk about in this segment. And now we're finding out, or we're gonna hopefully find out soon, if they will be put into effect. And joining us to help break that down is Nomiki Konst, who's both a reporter for TYT and thankfully a member of that Reform Commission. Welcome to the show, Nomi.
Thanks, John, nice to see you.
Yeah, it was good to talk to you, it's been too long.
Yeah.
Now I know this is another big week for you on the URC. You have meetings later on this week, correct?
Well, the URC has concluded its meetings until the vote. So it's a little confusing, and this is where we get into like whether it's intended to be this way or it's just by effect of how the process works. There's lots of bureaucracy along the way. So there's a Rules and Bylaws Committee meeting that was last week, and now there's the major DNC meeting where all of the DNC members come together twice a year to talk about things.
I would not be surprised to find out that they were using that bureaucracy to try to, at the very least, confuse supporters of the reform package about what's going to happen. But do we know when a vote might even generally take place?
First, it has to go to the Rules and Bylaws Committee, and they seem to be still trying to understand what came out of the Reform Commission. Mm-hmm. I think some of the problems that have come out of this is that, when I watched the first Rules and Bylaws Committee meeting a couple months ago, they were trying to unpack our recommendations, and actually quite a few of them said, well, you should have gone further. But what they didn't really understand, and I'm glad that we were there in the room to comment back, was, well, we did try to go further, but this is a result of negotiating. And so I actually thought it was great to see that many of the Rules and Bylaws Committee members wanted to just eliminate superdelegates altogether and didn't understand why we couldn't do that. They thought that some of the party reform stuff didn't go far enough. I agreed as a party reform committee member. And now I think the question is, what are they gonna directly put into the Rules and Bylaws, because they have the power to do so. And then whatever they don't is gonna go before the greater DNC membership at large, which depending on, this is what we don't really know yet, whether they're gonna vote on all the recommendations in its entirety or they're gonna go through the whole debate process all over again.
See, that's interesting. I didn't know that there were those two different ways that various parts could be put into effect. Yeah. It's great that we have you as a resource because it's very difficult to follow along. I know, especially for people who are being blindsided on a daily basis by so much other news.
Right.
So I do want to return to what you were saying before about where areas you wanted to go farther, but let's catch people up if they haven't been paying attention. What are some of the highlights of the reform package of things that the URC has suggested should be changed at the DNC?
So there were 4 areas that we focused on. And again, this was decided after the convention in 2016 between the Sanders and Clinton teams. And the goal was to reform the party. This happens quite a bit. Some people have said on Twitter, for instance, the Unity Reform Commission doesn't mean anything. Well, in the past, commissions have actually been very important, either good or bad. They have invented superdelegates. They've expanded the role of superdelegates. They have, Jesse Jackson actually got quite a few reforms put into the DNC through his commission. So it kind of goes back and forth. So there's real potential here to make some true reforms at a moment where the Democratic Party is its weakest ever. So we focused on, and this is a mandate, we had to decrease the superdelegates by 60%. That was pre-negotiated. And we got that, and now, there might be an opportunity to eliminate them altogether. I definitely encourage people to pressure DNC members to do so, because I do think it's not as controversial as many think. It's loud, but it's not as controversial when you look at the numbers. The second area was caucus reform. The state parties, the states actually control whether or not they have a caucus or a primary. Another area where people debate online is, well, people on the URC were trying to replace primaries with caucuses, and none of that's true. We don't even have the ability to do so. So the Reform Commission can only make recommendations to the state to improve their caucus process, but legally we can't force anybody. And the same goes with primaries. There's primary reform, same-day registration we can push for. In many states that are not democratically controlled, we're limited, and that's where we empower those parties, maybe even financially, to take legal action. But in states like New York, it's a Democratic-controlled state, the Democratic primary can actually be reformed by the New York State Democratic Party by moving all the deadlines to the closest deadline. And that's actually very significant because New York has actually the most restrictive voting laws in the country.
Yeah, and we saw the effect of that last time around.
We did. And then the fourth area, which was my committee, is party reform. And that's really having to do with the internal workings of the DNC. Is the budget public? Turns out the budget isn't even shared sometimes with executive committee members who have a fiduciary responsibility to the party. And that's where we get into the role of like consultants, how much the consultants control the party. It's very controversial because those who are on the take from the party, I'm just gonna say it, don't wanna change it. And those who are not on the take may or may not have the courage to go against those folks, but definitely feel frustrated. These are just basic compliance laws. This isn't like revolutionizing the party. This is making it so that there's actual corporate compliance.
Well, thank you for that rundown. By the way, it makes me feel good to know I hadn't actually known that it's possible that they could go farther on some of these during the actual votes. I know a lot of people would like that. Let's actually talk about that a little bit. I mean, I remember covering one of the URC meetings in Las Vegas. I got to see that while there was sometimes big disagreements between different parts of the party during these meetings, you had what I would consider very strong advocates for the reforms that I think you and I probably agree on. This was not some sort of like token representation, like it was, there were strong advocates. Now, since the suite of reforms has come out, what has the reaction been largely from activists and politicians, people who are engaged and active on our side?
I think it's been mixed. I mean, this is something that I think the Democratic Party would be, meaning those who are in control of it, would probably be fine with it not being so public and out there. But our side, strong advocates included, has been pretty aggressive about making sure activists know about what's happening. It's very process oriented, but strangely enough, people are really interested in process right now when it's getting covered. So I think most activists seem pleased. Bernie in particular was very pleased with the reforms coming out of it. You have to understand, for those activists who might be skeptical, we were outnumbered and we had to negotiate, and we passed this stuff unanimously. Did all of the areas go far enough? Absolutely not. But did we get way more than we expected? 100%. And I think that is because we had such strong advocates on our side. And frankly, Hillary is not controlling the party anymore. So it was easier to kind of communicate one-on-one with some of her members who may not be lobbyists or consultants, who really just want to do what's right for the party because they're Democrats.
Yeah.
So it was interesting how we were able to work that. Now, both Chairman Perez and what's his actual title? Keith Ellison, because it's a new title.
Is it deputy chair?
Deputy chair, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
He's not a vice chair, I always say that. They both are fully in support of the commission's report. How much they go and champion it and campaign for it, I think we have to watch. But I think that's why it's really important that activists really pay attention. Who's on the Rules and Bylaws Committee? Who is your DNC member? Let them know.
Yeah.
That if you don't pass these rules, we're going to challenge you. We're going to make it really hard for you to stay on that DNC, which in the past has just been a prop. Like you just show up in your props.
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is that people stay engaged and keep watching. I mean, the members of the DNC leadership that have been around for a while want people to not know what's going on. I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we do have to end this segment. Thank you so much, Nomi, for coming in and shedding some light on this situation for us.
Thank you for covering this, John, and congratulations on the show. This is awesome. You look great. That set looks amazing.
Oh, thank you. That has nothing to do with me, but they do great work here. So thank you again.
The suit goes well.
Thank you.
If you like this interview and you're at the end, so apparently you liked it a little bit, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. You can watch them live as they happen if you're a member. Only members get that. Go to tytnetwork.com/join. And you get not only interviews live, you get the Young Turks live, you get Aggressive Progressive live, Old School, and all of it commercial free. Come join us right now, tytnetwork.com/join.